Hi everyone, welcome to this session. Yesterday was 100 days to CAT, and we're getting a lot of queries on Tony sir's blog, on emails, on Telegram groups. So people were a little anxious. That counter of 100 days I think plays on everybody's mind. So we thought we'll get you ask the questions that are on top of your mind. So we had about 500 questions that were asked to us. So all of us have gone through these questions, and what we have done is we found a pattern in these questions. So everybody is more or less asking the same question. So we have made a list of the top 15 questions that CAT 21 aspirants have. We have put them in a particular order so that we have a structured discussion today. Okay. So just for your understanding, point one, we have compiled a list of those commonly asked questions. Believe me, it will cover almost all your queries. Point two, we will be going section wise today. So for the first 15 to 20 minutes, we'll be discussing VARC. Correct. Tony and I will take up those questions. Then we'll move on to DLR, where Amit sir and Shashank will share their insights. Correct. Obviously, Tony sir can also comment. And then finally, we'll go on to quant. So we are taking as if it's the CAT test that is already on. Okay. You can also post your queries on the chat. We are also monitoring the chat both on Zoom and also on YouTube. It will be preferred if you can discuss the section that is already on. So if you are discussing VRC, please post VRC questions. That will be helpful for all of us. Okay. To answer the questions, yes, the recording will be available on YouTube after the session is over. Right now, let's focus on the live session. The recording will come after this immediately on YouTube. Okay. So with that, let's get cracking on 100 days to CAT. Okay. The first thing is, a lot of people are asked, how do we score a 99 percentile? How do I clear the cutoff? So on and so forth. What we found is a lot of people don't know what score is required to achieve these percentile marks. Okay. So to start things off, we have put a table which tells you the CAT 2020 score versus percentile mapping. We have highlighted 2 points, 2 critical points. One is the 85 percentile mark, which is typically taken as the sectional cutoff. So if you look at VARC, last year, when I look at CAT 2020, VARC section was a little difficult. If you have 8 correct answers, which is actually only 30% of the paper, you will be clearing 85 percentile mark. And if you can answer about 14 questions out of the 26 questions, you actually clear the 99 percentile mark. Okay. So our first request to you is to have a number that you're going to chase. Correct. So if let's say today you are at 60 percentile in VARC, correct. You need to know, let me move to the 80 percentile mark. So you need to know how many questions should I get right. Okay. So if I look at that example for VARC, it's just 22 marks to clear the 80 percentile mark. So what you have to tell yourself is, how can I get 8 answers correct on my VARC? Correct. There are many ways to get 8 net answers correct. You can attempt 16 and maybe get only 12 of them right. You can attempt only 8 and get all 8 of them right. Right. So have a benchmark in mind is our first request. Some of you may want to take a screenshot of this table because it will answer all your numerical queries. What marks will give me what percentile. So that is what is being tackled here. Some of you are doing well. You can have your eye on the 99 percentile mark. So once you cross the coveted 100 mark, you will be closer to that 99 percentile mark. Okay. This is based on actual student performance of last year. So the source is absolutely verified and credible. Okay. Anybody else wants to add to this table? Tony, Amit, Shashank sir?
I think table is fine. Everybody should take a screenshot.
Yes, just take a screenshot so that it guides all our discussion. Okay, we have one question here is, will CAT 21 be similar to CAT 2020 in terms of the difficulty and hence this particular table? Okay, I will just respond to that. One, if you look at past trends, a year does not differ too much from the previous year. It does not mean there will be no difference at all. Yes, maybe VRC will go a little more difficult or a little more easy. That depends on the IM setting up the paper. This year it is IMA. Correct, but broadly these numbers will remain 2. Okay, so take it as a benchmark and not as an absolute point to be attacked. So you can assume, yes, last it was 80. 76 gave me a 95 percentile. It will be around that mark is what you can take. And obviously, while you take the SimCats, we always release the numbers, what score will give you an 85, 95 percentile mark. Okay. So I hope that answers your question.
So there is one question which I'm reading a lot in the chat is that are the SimCat percentiles similar to this? But remember, in the SimCat, what happens is that we tend to experiment with the paper. Sometimes we keep LR difficult, sometimes verbal difficult, sometimes quant difficult, and so on. I think post SimCat 10 or maybe 12, you will start seeing much more similarity in the score versus the percentile compared to a CAT 20 score versus percentile.
I think Shashank, we can maybe look at that one. We can just tell them how to convert the SimCat percentiles. How do they map with the actual CAT percentiles, right?
Right. So yeah.
Just to give you put things in perspective. So why SimCat? Why your actual percentile on the CAT will be much higher than your SimCat percentile? You know that it's number of people doing below you divided by total number of takers. In SimCats, both these numbers will be in 5 digits, right? Or 4 digits numerator, 5-digit denominator. By the time you go to the actual CAT, around 2 lakh people will be registering for the test. About 1,70,000 people will be taking, the test. Now, while that's a huge numerator, the number of people who actually turn up on test day without preparation is huge. Even among all IMS students, very few people actually take all the SimCats. So huge crowd of people is going to turn up who have done no preparation, but exactly on test day. Right? So what happens to a fraction when, say, fraction less than 1, when both numerator and denominator are increasing in the same proportion, the fraction increases. So which is why on test day, you will find that your actual percentile will be much higher than your SimCat percentile because a huge number of people get added. Right? Shashank, maybe you've done the math on this.
Yeah. So we did a bit of analysis and we looked at people who had taken all the SimCats last year and what happened on the day of the CAT. And statistically, there is this piece of data which tells us that you should be able to bridge 80% of the gap that you have. So let's say, for example, you are scoring a 70 percentile in the SimCats, but you are regularly taking SimCats and you are working hard on your content. Then whatever is the gap of 30 percentile that is left. So you are scoring 70 percentile, you are 30 percentile away from 100. 80% of that 30 percentile can be sort of achieved when it comes to the day of the CAT. So even if you are at a 70 percentile, it's a realistic chance that you will reach a 94th percentile. So, and this data is sensitive for roughly 3/4 of the people who took SimCats last year. So moral of the story, you have to keep on taking SimCats, not worry about the percentiles a lot. And I think you should be good to go. So people are scoring in the 60s, 70s, don't worry about it.
Yeah. I think Shashank, minimum guarantee is half the gap will get bridged. So if you're at 90, the gap is 10 from 100. Minimum guarantee is a 95 if you perform to the same level. So minimum guarantee is a half of the gap getting bridged. A more optimistic, not more optimistic scenario, statistically, it can go as high as to 4/5 of the gap getting bridged, right? So look at your current percentile gap from 100, half to 4/5 of that you can add.
Okay.
So we'll start with the verbal questions, Hema.
Yes, we can do that.
A few more questions. I saw interesting questions in the chat. What you call 26 questions for 100 percentile. Yeah, all the 100 percentiler guys easily will knock off all the 78 marks. They'll easily do all the 26 questions, right? Shashank, I think Amit sir, I think you guys always attempt all the questions, right? Even when it was 36 questions, you go as high as.
So I had a 99.99 at 73 last year. So it was not worthy enough to be 100.
Yeah. So in case you guys think that the percentiles are not valid, no, it's absolutely valid.
Okay. So first question for VARC. I think this question is common across all the 3 sections. So the first one is the 100-day prep plan for VARC. Maybe I'll just give my 2 cents first and then we can add to that. So I believe, and it is a fact that there are not many concepts to learn in VARC, right? Once you know how to tackle a para-jumble and a summary question, there are no concepts to learn. So in my personal opinion, it is best that you look at VARC as a sectional sprint. Now, what do I mean by that? see, if I look at a 40-minute that is devoted to a VRC section, we can look at roughly 25 minutes that will be devoted to RC, 15 minutes that is devoted to the VA section. Okay, there will be a plus minus 5 minutes depending upon your own strengths and weakness. So, for example, if I am very, very good at RC and reasonably not so good at VA, I may decide to spend 30 minutes on the RC section and only 10 minutes for VA, right? So 25, 15, and plus minus 5 minutes based on your strengths and weaknesses. That would be my allocation. What I would prefer doing now is I will take up 4 RCs because generally we expect 4 RCs to appear on CAT 21 also. And I will give myself 25 minutes to tackle those 4 RCs. So I will learn passage selection, know which passages to attempt, which passages not to attempt, right? So I'm going to train myself to attempt up to 4 passages in 25 minutes. Similarly, I will look at VARC as a chunk of 8 questions, correct? And give myself 10 to 12 minutes to knock off all the 8 questions, right? Maybe once or twice a week, I'm going to take the entire sectional test of 40 minutes. We give you 10 sectional tests, and you can obviously look at so many other proctored SIMCATs and take-home SIMCATs that you have, correct? So I will then try to look at the entire VARC section as a 40-minute sprint that I'm doing, right? So that would be my suggestion for the VARC section. Correct. Tony, you want to add to that?
Yeah, see, people ask me for a prep plan. It's like there is no standard prep plan because you need to know what your problem is. So, for example, I wouldn't say those. Some of you in the chat are saying that one of you said your percentile is varying between 93 and 99 on VA. Obviously, I don't think you need to prepare for 100 days for VA, going on right now. So what you really need to figure out is where does your problem lie in VA? Is it technique? Is it speed? Or is it comprehension? Yeah. So depending on that, you need to figure out how much practice you need. Suppose speed is not a problem. You're able to solve 20 questions in 40 minutes without too much of an issue, right? You're comfortably solving, 20 questions in 40 minutes. That means we're more or less there with respect to speed. How much ever you need to do in terms of practice to fix your technique, you should do that in terms of getting your technique right. And if you need to push your accuracy above. So I wouldn't think of, say, doing a lot of practice. It is more like concentrated practice just to get your technique. And after that, the mocks should suffice, right? Those of you really struggling with speed, those of you are really having a huge problem with in terms of timing itself, you're not able to solve more than, say, 12 to 15 questions in 40 minutes, then you should maybe look at practicing enough and more RCs every day so that your, speed goes up. So I covered this in the RC masterclass in terms of those of you really struggling with VA, what should you do in a short duration, a prep. So those of you who have not seen that, go to the RC masterclass. I'll give in like a intensive workout plan for that. Right? But I don't think it's a steady state. Every day I need to do this. If I'm good at something, I won't really practice it. I won't waste any time practicing, stuff if I'm already good at it. I'm doing it. And even if you're having problems with concept, comprehension, it's the same thing. So in terms of, I would say those who are really struggling for a brief period of 2 weeks or say at least 10 days, just do RCs non-stop, a huge quantum of it, how to do it, where to practice, what to do, I've covered in the RC masterclass.
So just to give an example of what Tony sir mentioned, knowing your weakness. So for example, when I analyze mocks with the students, I go into the depth of, suppose there's a student who is struggling with all the summary questions. Whenever there's a summary question in the RC, the student gets it wrong. Or we go to detail of, okay, is he getting all the strengthen the arguments question, which points to a weakness in knowing the critical reasoning concepts, right? So once you can diagnose your own weakness, what Tony sir mentioned was to focus on improving that particular weakness. So you solve, let's say, 50 questions, 100 questions of strengthen the argument. The next time you take a SIMCAT, you're sure you're bound to have an improvement in your scores in that particular section, right? So know your weakness first, because the scope of asking questions is pretty limited. It's only RC and VA. You can easily work on your weaknesses and move it from there.
And Himanshu, just to add one thing, so all of you are our students, and we have been a part of a lot of groups. We see a lot of questions from QA and LRDI being asked. but very, very few people ask questions on verbal ability, which means that either you are too confident of asking questions or you are too scared of asking questions. So in either case, I would suggest that all of you get in touch with your mentors, ask wherever you feel the answer is not convincing. You have to be convinced with the answer, otherwise you will end up repeating the same mistake during the test as well. So please discuss your answers with the faculty members and your mentors.
In fact, I have something to add to the same thing. I have noticed that students in general, and this is my experience from last 10, 12 years, that students in general spend a lot of time doing quant. But when it comes to LRDI and verbal, especially RC in verbal and LRDI, they feel that the same set is not going to come, same RC is not going to come, so they don't practice enough. You keep doing quant, but you don't practice enough RC and LRDI. That's my, at least, thought. A very common problem.
Yeah. RC.
Yeah, so the next question is RC or VA, which one to prioritize? Yeah, Tony, you can.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So see, one, I don't think you can clear the verbal section without doing reasonably well at RC. I'm not saying you have to completely ace it, but skipping RC is mathematically not possible. 18 of the 26 questions tend to revolve around RC. So RC, at least you have to be reasonably good, correct? Across all models, even if I take quant or even LRDI, RC has the highest weightage. So I don't think I will ever, or anybody will ever advise you to skip RC. When it comes to VA, given the kind of questions that are appearing on CAT, yes, you may have slightly lower accuracy in VA, specifically for questions like odd man out, the really tricky ones, or maybe parajumbles without the options, right? So I would suggest within VA, you should know your order of priority, which means you give me a verbal section to attempt. I would know that, okay, I'll first tackle the summary questions because I'm good at it. I will then go on to the odd man out questions, and only then will I move on to the parajumbles, right? Because it is difficult to mark the difficulty level of each question. I will know, am I good at summary, yes or no, right? When it comes to RC, I am going to expose myself to all the different types of RCs that appear, correct? Economics, science, management, philosophy is now not so prevalent if I look at the last 3 years, correct? And I will try answering all those questions. So my suggestion to you is, if you can do 2 or 3 of the 4 RCs well, I think you're pretty much sorted. If you're really good at verbal, you can even look at 3 or 3.5 passages. 4 last will look difficult, I would say, but that would be my benchmark for you. So RC is a must. You'll have to manage. If you're weak at RC, please do work on your weakness there. And for the other 3, you can be good at least 2 of the 3. I think you'll be managing your verbal section well. That would be my suggestion. So, you want to add something?
Yeah, so I think it's like asking, okay, there are 4 bowlers, 4 pace bowlers and 1 spin bowler. Which one should I prioritize? Your job is to score runs, right? And you're going to score runs of all the run scoring balls. So it's as simple as that, if you ask me. So we looked at that table and we had 40 marks, right, for 99 percentile. So 40 marks, if I'm looking at how are you going to get that 99 percentile and 40 marks, right? So doing 4 passages is literally not possible within the 30 minutes, because that means everybody has to go at close to, say, 7.5 minutes per passage. What I've seen is what is realistically possible is 10 minutes for a passage along with questions. That means it's around 9 to 10 minutes. That means around 25 to 30 minutes for 3 passages. 25 to 30 minutes for 3 passages. That means 13 to 14 questions. 13 to 14 questions in 3 passages and around 25 to 30 minutes. You are supposed to get 25 marks at least from this. 25 marks from 25 to 30 minutes and 3 passages, right? 13 to 14 questions, you get 9 to 10 questions right, and you make 4 mistakes, which is exactly a strike rate of around, say, 67%, right? Accuracy of around 67%, 3 passages, 13 to 14 questions, you will get those 24 to 26 marks. That is where you're getting one chunk of your marks from, right? In the remaining 10 to 12 minutes, in these 8 questions, you have to eke out 5 questions right, which is, again, 5 out of 8 is 62.5%, right? So 62.5% is not, again, a very high accuracy. 15 marks from there. So 25 marks from RC, 15 marks from VA, And that is how you're going to get your 40. And you go close to 99. Now, based on your ability, you scale down. You cannot do 3 passages and get that. Your accuracy is very low. You're not targeting a 99. You want to target low. Go for 2 passages and get 15 marks from there. Target only, say, getting 4 right. Right? 4 right in 10 minutes. Leave parajumbles if you don't like it and get 12 marks. So 15 plus 12, you'll get your 27 marks and you'll easily clear your cutoff. So the task is that. So that is how you should look at your this thing. Which one should you prioritize? Which one should you do first? If the opposition decides to bowl spin bowling first, you should be able to play spin bowling. So I don't see any difference between doing VA first, RC first, 10 minutes there, last minute there, because everything is finally marks, right? And people say, कि अच्छा नहीं, RC में 5 questions होते हैं. So one RC has 5 paragraphs and 5 questions, right? Over 4 RCs, you're going to have around 20 paragraphs. For 4 RCs, you're going to have around 20 paragraphs and 18 questions. Every VA question is 1 paragraph and 1 question. So where is the difference? Where is RC high return or this thing no return? I don't see, any issues that way. So that's how I'd look at it. 3 passages for 25 marks, and which is with a 60% with a 67% accuracy roughly, and say 8 VA questions for 15 marks, 5 questions right. If that accuracy level we are not able to hit, then I don't see, I think that's the best way out. Anything over this is a bonus. You can start off with, scaling down, right? If RCs are very tough, automatically it will scale down, right? So you can leave those questions or difficult questions. Hemang, this one?
Yeah, I think in our SimCat strategy videos and RC masterclass, we have covered this in quite a bit of detail. I think Tony sir has done a long video, very detailed video, I would say, on the same one. There are a couple of methods we suggest. The one that is easiest to implement, I would say, is you judge the passage on 3 parameters. So Tony sir has spoken about that method, that look at the language, look at the content, and look at the topic, right? So for example, you read the first paragraph, you find the language to be easy, you are able to comprehend it, which means you give it a rating of 3. So 1 is difficult, 2 is medium, and 3 is easy. So you give it a 3. Topic, you are very comfortable with economics, give it a 3. You see a history passage, you are not very comfortable with it, you give it a 1, right? So any passage you'll be able to rate on these 3 parameters. You get a sum total out of 10 for the same. The higher the sum total, the easier the passage is, right? I think any passage that you rate 7 or above, I think you should be able to solve it on the spot. The rest you can check which has a higher rating and then go for the same. That would be, in brief, our method for selecting a passage. A detailed video, a detailed blog on the same has already been posted multiple times, I would say.
Yeah, I think we have that in the channel tab. You'll have the SimCat strategy videos, where under the verbal section, we've detailed out as to how to do this. Also in the analysis video of SimCat 1 and SimCat 4, I've done this. Now, for those who are doing very well, you can have a slightly different strategy. Instead of saying that how to select, you can say, which one do I keep for last? Which passage do I reject upfront? So read the first paragraphs of all the passages. Whichever one you find the worst, most horrible topic that you hate, keep that one for the last. And you know that you're going to come back to that only if the rest of the passages turn out to be very easy and you're going to, do that, right? So that is what you should be, so that's another way of looking at it. Which one will I reject? Forget what will I select, but which one will I keep aside, and then start off on the rest. Within the rest also start off with whichever one from the first paragraph is seeming easiest, right? You have 4 passages, 1 paragraph each. You should be able to do it in, say, under 3 minutes, say, reading that 1 paragraph each. So that is what I would say.
I think Tony, you can take this one.
Yeah.
How to improve accuracy. I am assuming it meant how to improve accuracy on RC and maybe VA separately.
Yeah. So now this particular part, how to improve accuracy. So I have a small, story. So a few weeks back, I think a month or so back, I was feeling, say, a bit bored, not necessarily bored, but whatever you call the pandemic feeling is. And just to give myself a bit of a kick, what I did was I purchased the advanced questions on the GMAT. A collection of all the advanced questions. I went to the official site, shelled out money, bought that. That is my idea of fun, you can say. So I took that and I chose, so you can choose, and all the questions are difficult. So I chose 5 difficult SC questions and did that just for fun. Right? And when I say I did that just for, and I was doing that for fun, but I did it purely based on reading and gut feel. So how many do you think I got right out of the 5? So this is the first set. I got 1 question right out of 5, right? Only 1. Why did I get 1 right? Because I just did it by my gut feel. Despite having taught GMAT for a long time, despite me myself having done well on it for a long time, because I did it only on my gut feel, I got only 1 right out of 5, right? But the moment I switch, because I have a very, very precise technique on how to solve sentence correction, right? There's an underlined part. I read the sentence, understand it. I look at the options, look at the left side. So 3 options are starting with is improving, 2 options are starting with to improve. So this is the first thing I need to solve. Once I solve this, I go to the right side. So I have a clear process. Every time I violate my process and do it by gut feel, I will make a mistake, right? So I know that. So that is what happens. So when you say that accuracy is a problem, we have given you clear, say there is the labeling method for odd man out, there is the XYZ method for summary, and there is a, what you call, what is a starter linking and sequencing method for parajumbles. For RC also, very, very clearly, we have come up with a method and we have covered the RC entire processes in RC Masterclass 1, Masterclass 2. So those of you are saying, I have a problem with RC and this thing, so you have to go first, watch the 2 masterclasses, right? So every time you are not doing, there is no gut feel on which you can do. Every time you don't follow, first thing is you have to master the process. If you do not have mastery over the process, there is no way that you can have at least that 2/3 of the accuracy. For example, what do I mean mastery of the process? If the question says which of the following would most weaken the author's main argument, which of the following would weaken the main argument, you cannot go to the options before stopping and first saying, okay, what is the author's main argument? The author's main argument is that diverse teams are best and you should not select the best people. So that means if it has to weaken it, then diverse teams will not work, or you should not. So you need to do that and then go to the options. If you're reading the question, not framing a shadow answer, just going to the option, reading all the options and thinking that in your head somehow you will know the right answer, it's not going to happen, right? So every single time, so maybe you start with 2 passages and say getting 15 marks from there and 12 marks from VA only, right? But devote your time to ensuring that every single time you are hitting the technique right. Without good technique, there is absolutely, so you can read as many Aeon magazines as you want, Aeon articles as you want. You can do all the vocabulary in the world and mug up barons also. It is not going to make a whit of a difference to your accuracy if you do not have technique. It's as simple as that. So there is, that's the only thing I can, say about accuracy. So if, say, by default, making a shadow answer is not in your system, you always read all the options, not possible to do. Yeah. A student had asked me a very, very interesting question. He said, sir, what if on all the easy questions, I do, by my own method, I do it by gut feel. Only on the tough question, I will use your methods. I was like, wonderful. It's like when the bowler is bowling the toughest ball, then automatically you are going to use your technique. But in all the other times, you're not going to use your technique. How is it even possible? It's like your brain is so flexible that on the toughest one, it will execute the technique. On the easiest one, it will do whatever it wants. Right? So it doesn't work that way. So that's what I say, that I make mistakes when I don't follow my own technique. So that's all I can say with respect to it. And when the question becomes tough, what do you have to fall back on? All you have is technique. So we are going to do the VA Masterclass. You can look at that. And I think the rest we have anyway, RC Masterclass 1 and 2 get done.
Just to add one thing to this thing. So there is something called as the value of disappointment. I don't know how many of you have read this book called Atomic Habits. It basically says that a lot of people expect linear improvement. So you work for 1 day, you expect 1 marker increase. You work for 2 days, you expect +2. You work for 3 days, you work +3. In most of the cases, that is not going to happen. You will start slow, but then you will start seeing the acceleration kick in. So even if it's not working for you, even if you are not comfortable applying the methods that Tony sir just mentioned, you have to stick to it. You have to trust the sources, and you have to keep working tirelessly towards application of those concepts. If you do not apply and give up after 1 or 2 SIMCATs, it's not going to help you at all. And you will end up being at the same place where you are right now. And again, that's how your score will keep on moving around in circles. So that you have to keep on applying.
And those who are having questions, what you call that, why are my scores fluctuating? Scores also fluctuate purely because of that reason. Right? If you don't have a solid technique, when the paper is easy, it's like batting in India, your aram se score runs. The moment the paper's level goes up, so automatically your scores will go down. It's like batting in England. So that is why that fluctuation happens, because if somehow the paper, the content, the passage is something that is to your liking and to your strength, you do well. Otherwise, the moment things get tough, the technique kind of, falters.
By the way, one more part, the moral of the story is that if you start solving verbal for fun, you start doing better. Tony sir solves verbal for fun. While we watch, say, Netflix for fun, he solves, and that's true for all faculties. So it's example today, I'm sure you all know Param sir. I was with Param sir today, and I just showed him a question, and he traveled like around 20 kilometers and he'd come. He didn't even put his bag down. He wanted to see the question first. That's the kind of inquisitiveness people have, and that's why they do well.
Yeah. So if you're not finding it fun, then that's a bit of a issue. Yeah. So the next, Hemang, you want to give your 2 pence on this?
Yeah. So the question is there a link between general reading and performance on the VARC section? I think this question is a hot favorite for all verbal mentors. Okay. Obviously, yes, I think there is no doubt absolutely that good readers will perform well on VARC section, because if you look at it, what is VARC section? We have 4 RCs, each, let's say, on an average 500 words. So we are reading 2000 words. If I look at the 8 other questions, it will add up to another 1000 words, right? So you're reading 3000 words. If you're not doing this consistently, and you're, one fine day you woke up and you see 3000 words on the screen, you are going to have a brain freeze, right? So yes, there is a direct link between reading and performance on the VARC section, for sure. The more important question, I would say, given that this session is aimed at CAT 21 aspirants, the more important question is how much time should I spend on general reading and how much time should I spend on actual RC solving. If I were you, I would spend more time on RC solving as of now. If this was a session for CAT 22, I would have said, okay, don't even solve an RC for the next couple of months, just spend time reading, right? So now the time has come for you to start focusing on RC solving, because the technique, the process that Tony sir just mentioned, you'll have to pick that up, right? I read a few questions, comments, that I read the Hindu daily. I have watched all the videos, but I can't improve my performance on the RC section. My point is, you don't learn swimming by watching swimming videos, right? You have to jump into the water and maybe struggle for a few days, and only then you will learn swimming, right? So you are not going to get better at RC till the time you don't start solving RC, So you will have to put in that pain, correct? It's very easy to say, okay, read 2 articles a day on the Hindu, we travel, we scroll, and we feel happy, I've done my verbal bit. That is only the start. That is not the end, I would say. So if you're looking at CAT 21 seriously, I would say keep your target at X number of RCs per day if you're struggling, correct? To do that, you obviously have to read the passage maybe multiple times, so the reading will automatically come in, right? So unless you have a very specific problem, okay, my reading speed is too slow, or I can't comprehend the passage at all, in that case, you devote a little extra time to reading. But my 2 cents to summarize would be, RC solving should be the focus now. Reading can take a slide backstage if you're looking at CAT.
Yeah, so I think, again, to give a cricket example, it's like asking, sir, I'm doing, extensive gymming and running every day, but I'm still getting out to Anderson. What, why am I getting out to Anderson? Because, the reading is that it's just general fitness, and that has nothing to do with actually, the question type. Because how do you know your comprehension has been tested in the first place? You've read a Hindu article, yes, but have you made any sense of it? How do you know? They're not giving you questions and options, right? So as Hemang sir said, if we are sitting in January or we're sitting now for next year's prep, you have a lot of time, you can do general reading. Yeah. But otherwise, if you, after you finish your VA prep, your quant prep, your DILR prep, even after that you have enough time, you are not able to sleep, then do your general reading. Otherwise, whatever amount of time you have, you intend to give for this reading Aeon and Hindu and this and that, you might as well solve RC passages, which IMS has on the portal, or any other this thing, because these passages are made from these articles only. Yeah. So that is what I would tell you about this. There is no direct link. It's a general fitness link, and that's about it. Yeah. So yeah, so 3 months to go. No point reading newspaper. So if you have that time, so read this only. I just say that you should just go ahead and solve as many RC passages, because it's an article plus 5 questions. So instead of reading, do reading comprehension, right? So that is what I would say, because exam does not have only reading. If I wish they said that passage pad lo, and that's about it. You have a good time, then you can solve some other questions. But they give questions, right? So general reading is as good as that at this stage. I think a couple of general questions, and we can stop. So one question was about vocabulary. Yeah, vocabulary has, there is no direct. I don't. Also, Hemang, I think the kind of words that get asked on the CAT, or rather they come as part of passages, I don't think that you can mug them up as part of a word list, right?
Yeah. So I think, yes, vocab preparation, if you're focusing on CAT, need not be a separate prep time. If you're looking at other exams, specifically XAT, IFT, that vocab word list will help. So maybe you can devote some time, 15 minutes a day, if you are focusing on XAT and IFT, or maybe post your CAT, and before these exams, you can do a crash course, mug those 800 words and pray that some of those words appear on the exam. Because honestly, there is no one shortcut to vocabulary. You might learn 1,000 words, and on the day that 1,001st word that you have never seen comes on the screen, right? So there, it's more about doing a word list very close to your exam, so that it's there in your short-term memory and you can have your answers, right? But as far as CAT concerned, I would totally concur with Tony sir that there is no specific need to work on your vocabulary skills.
Whatever after you solve a passage, just check the meanings of the words that you did not understand within the passage that you've done. It can be a SimCat passage, it can be a passage practice at home. Another thing, I think people are asking about among questions which are like idioms and stuff. So what we do is we throw in a few different question types which have not appeared, say, in the last year's CAT, but have appeared in past year's CAT, just so that there is a bit of variety, just in case. So complete the theme, a few grammar questions, a few idiom questions. But more or less, we think that the paper pattern is steady. There have been no changes since 2014 or 15, if I'm not wrong, in the kind of question types. The last edition was the odd one out question, right? So I don't think you should worry too much about grammar or idioms. We just throw in a few questions, but in all probability, the pattern should be the same. It has been fairly steady.
There are a few questions which I would say are general in nature. So
yeah,
if we discuss quant, we'll take up those questions also. As of now, maybe you can move on to the DLR section.
Yeah. We want to look at this one, percentiles once more.
Yeah. So LRDI, the percentile for 99 percentile, the score is 34 last year, which is around 11 to 12 questions. 11 to 12 correct questions, obviously.
Yeah, and if you look at it overall, as in 80th percentile, 85th percentile, and so on, you will see that for every additional question that you get correct, your score jumps by a good 5 percentile. So that's basically where your LRDI prep will come into the picture. Every answer that you do not mark incorrectly, right, will add to your score. Because that 15 you are seeing here is basically the tip of the iceberg. 80% of the people are spread over those 15 marks that you can't see here, right? So if 80% of the population is unable to hit 15 out of the 72 marks that this section is worth, then you know how difficult that section is. Obviously, everybody knows it's difficult, but what, as Amit sir said, 34 questions is 11 to 12 questions. 3 sets of 4 questions each or 2 sets of 6 questions each should be decent enough, right?
So, in fact, if you all have been seeing the SimCat videos, analysis videos, I have been in the last few SimCats, I've been talking about those TITA questions, which have, even though they don't have options, but the answers can be only 1 out of the 2-3 options available. So like there was one question, how many of these 4 people you cannot find? So now, if they're asking how many of the 4 answer TITA question, you are really lucky, right? Which means you can mark only 1, 2, 3, 4. Please don't leave any TITA questions like that blank, and don't go and mark a stupid answer like 7 or 8 there. So always, if you're lucky with that 1 or 2 questions, it will really be good. It can really change your percentile. If you get 2 questions like luckily, you will change by 10 percentile. You can move from 80 to 90. Yeah. Shashank, you want to start with this, and I'll chip in.
All right, sure. So we'll look at the questions. Yeah, sir. Phil will answer accordingly. Yeah, so 100-day prep plan. We had an interesting anecdote regarding this as to how many sets should you be solving. The sort of average consensus is somewhere around 300 to 400 sets is what we would expect you to solve. Obviously, that would be the upper limit. So that is basically the only thing that you have to do. Now, LRDI, if you look at it, a lot of people are saying this thing that you are able to solve sets in practice, but then you are not able to solve the sets during the test. There are a couple of reasons, right? One thing is when you are solving the particular set, you do not have the pressure of the timer, right? You are solving it leisurely. You are taking a good 10, 12, 15 minutes to solve a set. You can drink water in between. You can maybe take a walk, get your mind off things and come back to the set and do it. So that is one thing. The other thing is when you are doing practice, you are not exactly selecting 1 or 2 sets out of 5, which you are doing in the real-time scenario. So that is basically what makes a difference. So whenever you are practicing these kind of sets, try to make sure that you're timing yourself. That is one thing that you will have to do across these 300, 400 sets that I mentioned. The second thing is you have to understand how each and every set is constructed. So there are a couple of things in each set that you will see. The first thing is obviously the basic information that you will be able to plot very easily in the form of a table. The second thing is where you will get stuck, and that thing is called the bottleneck. So in any set, you will come across 2 or 3 bottlenecks wherein a majority of you are going to get stuck. You are not going to do anything of note over the next 2 or 3 minutes when you come across these kind of bottlenecks, right? And that is the wasteful expenditure that you have to avoid on the day of the test. So you have to understand very quickly that you have hit a bottleneck. You have to try to recall whatever you have done, whatever sets you have seen earlier. And once you understand that, okay, this is something new that I haven't seen in my life, it makes sense to go directly to the next set and try that out. Maybe instead of wasting time on that particular set, and make a note of it as you go ahead and try to go through this list over and over again so that you know that, okay, these are the kind of bottlenecks that I have encountered. And the next time I come across this bottleneck, that is basically how I'm going to overcome that particular thing.
So now, I was reading a lot of chat over here. On the chat, I was reading a lot of students saying, oh, 300 is too much. 300 sets or 400 sets are too much in 100 days. Now, let's try and break it up in terms of time. How many hours would you put to LRDI? Can I say comfortably 1.5 hours per day? Right? Assuming you have time from here onwards till CAT. Even if you're looking at an hour a day, that comfortably becomes 4 sets a day. Because you're not going to take more than 15 minutes, or you should not be taking more than 15 minutes per set. So you can easily solve even 4 per day. Yeah, I'm talking only about LRDI. So you can solve 2 LR, 2 DI, you can solve 4 DI one day, next day 4 LR, doesn't matter. But very frankly, you just start breaking it up and you realize, oh, it was not so much. Because when I say 400 all together, it sounds a lot. But start breaking it up as 4 a day. and then it's not so bad.
Yeah, and from where to practice these 400 sets, a lot of people are asking. Obviously, 40 SIM cards you have, 40 into 5, 200 sets from there. Sectional tests 10 into 5. I'm just taking optimum numbers here, another 50. Then you have your class exercises, which would comfortably be 100, 150 sets if I'm not wrong. Practice exercises, double that number. Learn module, practice module, past year CAT papers, past year ZAT papers, past year IFT papers. You have comfortably more than 400 sets that you have with you. So it's definitely possible to go through each and every one of them. The order basically remains in which I have mentioned it. So SIMCAT would probably take precedence, then maybe CAT sets that have actually appeared over the last 4 years at least. And obviously, if you want to go beyond that as well, and then maybe your sectional tests and everything. So you have to go through 400 sets in that manner, and it's definitely possible.
So I normally advise, Shashank, I tell people that they should solve one LR and one DI set every day besides the SIMCATs.
Perfect.
So, SIMCATs, they can always solve it like a test, while these LR and DI can always be practice.
True.
Yeah. So that should be the 100-day prep plan. Hemang, can we just take that ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, we have done a SIMCAT strategy video on this thing. So the videos that Hemang sir and Tony sir mentioned at the very beginning of the session, we also have something for LRDI. Again, there are 3 broad parameters on which we can sort of classify sets. And if you have been looking at the SIMCAT analysis videos for some of the SIMCATs, we have done an in-depth ABC analysis for set selection. 3 parameters. The absolutely important parameter is going to be familiarity. And that will essentially weed out the serious aspirants from the non-serious aspirants. So if there is even an ounce of unfamiliarity with this set that you would have seen, you should ideally leave that set in the first round. The second thing that we are looking at, the second parameter that we look at, is the nature of information that has been given. Right? Is it essentially conclusive or is it deductive in nature? If everything has been given to you and you will be able to make, say, one table of it, then that classifies as conclusive information in a way, you can say. The third thing is the nature of the questions that has been asked, open-ended questions or closed questions. Whenever a set has questions that start with an if, it's almost certain that you will have multiple cases that will happen. If a set has a lot of not statements in it, it's almost certain that you are going to have multiple cases, because you can use a not statement only to eliminate cases. So with this kind of an understanding, you will be able to maybe look at the set and then improve your selection. When to do that, again, is a different question. Some people will recommend that you look at the sets for the first 5 minutes, because you will have to switch off from verbal and switch on the DILR part in your head. So maybe the first 5 minutes can be used to do this switch on, switch off if you're not very fluid in terms of your strategy. But obviously, you have to understand whether you want to do a set or not before you start solving this. So that is very important.
So now, also there is one part where students have a predefined mindset that, I like LR more than DI. So you'll always notice, there are these engineering students who will say, okay, they are good at DI, but not good at LR. The non-engineers will feel they are good at LR and not at DI. And then what happens, you tend to attempt a difficult set of that area which you like. Don't get into that mindset. No, do your selection based on what is there in that set. One LR set can be very easy, one DI set can be very difficult, and vice versa. But if you narrow down to 2 sets and they look very similar in difficulty level, then you can take your preference. So for example, I'll be very frank. I also have that preference. I select always, if I have 2 similar sets, I will always select one DI set over LR, because that's very natural for a quant person to do. So always remember that select set on the difficulty level of the set and not based on whether it was LR or whether it was DI. And obviously, very importantly, familiarity. That is the most important. Once you're familiar with the type of set, you can always go ahead easily.
I think one of the biggest things about selection is that it should not be based on your likes or dislikes or your strengths or weaknesses, because you're only as good as your weakness, right? So it's not, your strength does not matter, because if all the toughest strengths sets come from your strengths and all the easiest sets come from your weakness, you would have left them, right? A lot of people don't like to do calculation sets, so don't make the set selection a thing of I will do sports sets because I like sports sets. As Amit sir said, I don't know. Actually, sir, maybe think it's the other way around. Nobody likes to do calculation sets. Everybody wants to do, LR. People see a spider graph and they get scared. so, and actually, if you ask me, all the easiest sets in the last 5 years were all the calculation sets, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to do in them at all. It was just basic donkey work of, say, going through it, So in the exam situation, it makes, so you can do selection only if you don't have biases. Otherwise, you'll be selecting for your biases and nothing else.
Yeah. In addition to your belongings, you also have to leave your ego and your prejudices outside of the test centers. Remember that.
Yeah. I think I'm most likely to get stuck on a question on an area that I really love the most. So yeah. जो चीज आपको सबसे ज्यादा पसंद है वही आपको डुबाएगा. What you love the most will hurt you the most. So.
Right. Amit sir, I've
solved
solved
a lot of questions types, but still not able to crack fresh sets. Well, I think, it's that improvement stage, as Shashank was saying earlier, that there will be one stage where you will start improving and that will change. Today, maybe, you've not solved enough. When you say you have solved a lot of questions, I would say, what is enough? I would say if you've solved around 150, 200 sets, and if you're still not able to crack sets, then it's a problem. Then you can look at it differently. You need to narrow down to maybe only 2 sets and then give your time to those 2 sets. So see, sometimes it is that you're not good at that area or you just want to manage that area. So fine, then you narrow down to 2 sets and solve only 2 sets, say 1 6-question set and 1 4-question set, and 10, and you will clear the cutoff, but maximize through the other 2 areas. But otherwise, don't make that judgment today that I have done enough, because I don't think so. I'm not just generalizing, but a lot of people would have not done up till 200 sets today. Don't include the SimCAT sets. Without SimCAT, have you solved 200 sets? If you have, then that's great.
Yeah. And again, as in, depends on what have you gained from those question types, right? So there are 2 things. One is, obviously, if you are just solving sets for the sake of it, you're just trying to do those numbers that we mentioned, it will not help you at all, right? You have to sort of take a step back once you're done with the set and think about it. So Amit sir, Amit sir, I, Param, all of us work together. And whenever we are doing your SimCAT videos, right, we solve the question as it might be intended to. But then we take a step back and start thinking, okay, was there any other way in which you could have solved this particular question? Was there some bit of information that we were missing? In fact, we also wonder if the options were not given, would it be able to make a theta question of this, right? Now, obviously, we are not going to benefit in any way by this kind of a discussion, obviously not directly. But then again, we are all curious people. And I think everyone on this panel is an extremely curious individual. Even if something is not their strength or not their liking, they would at least like to know ki acha chal kya raha hai exactly, right? So that is basically one thing you have to do. You have to understand what is the takeaway from each set that you have solved. If you don't have a takeaway, then that solution does not make sense, right? The second thing is you have to understand whether the fresh set that you are trying to tackle is someone that 95% of the people are going to tackle or not. So generally we prepare in a silo. We just prepare on our own. It's a very lonely journey if you look at it. Obviously, we have the community experience sheerly because of the strength of the students that we have. But overall, if you look at it, it's a very lonely journey, right? You will know what you are good at, what you are not great at, but you will not know in relative terms if that set was indeed difficult or not difficult. And it's very important to know if the others will be able to crack it or not. There is this small concept of Schadenfreude. It's not directly applicable. It essentially says that you derive pleasure from others' misery, but then again you have to understand where others are miserable, and that is basically stuff that you have to avoid. And the p-value that you have in each of these sets is a good indicator. Next time when you attempt a SimCAT, try to figure out what the p-value is going to be like. Once you're done with the test, before you look at the actual p-value, try to figure out whether the p-value, what could be the p-value according to you, and try to match it. I'm sure your selection will get a bit better once you're done with that exercise.
I think we've already addressed this question. How many sets to practice?
This also we've addressed.
Yeah.
We want to focus on DI and LR. Focus on picking out the easy sets irrespective of DI, and LR. Roughly, just to divide your time into 40 minutes, you should know that 3 sets is Amit sir, I think 3 sets is how much? 36 marks would give you.
Yeah. So
99.
if I look at even
99.
3 sets with all four questions each,
Yeah.
then also we land up to 36, which was more than 99 percentile last year's. More than 99%.
So the 3 easiest sets should not take you more than 10 minutes each. So that's 30 minutes. You still have 10 minutes to select the 3 easiest sets. And this selection does not mean solving everything.
Yeah.
Right. You cannot get into it, start solving, then start, drawing tables and then figure out how to make you. So the main skill is to read that information and figure out, okay, how easy or how direct it is to solve that. So yeah, 10 minutes and then 30 minutes, you can solve the 3 sets, get that there. And first 10 minutes you have to use for what you call set selection.
So I always have this logic, even if you're not able to look at, means you're not able to think of all 5 sets, which are the easiest 3. I think it's much easier to get which was the easiest one out of the 5 and which was the most difficult one. So 1 out of the 5 at least which you're definitely doing and 1 out of the 5 which you're definitely leaving. Then it becomes that much more easier to balance the remaining 3. And please don't get carried away into solving 6 question set. Now,
or 5 questions RCs. It is like the dumbest thing to do if you ask me, as if more cricket, more Pepsi, मैं ज़्यादा question है तो मेरे ज़्यादा marks आ जाएंगे. It is almost as if if I have chosen to do something, I want to get as much return as possible. But it's just the daftest thing to choose 6 question sets just because the set has 6 questions.
And also don't go overboard while attempting. It's not as if you have paid 2,200 rupees, so every question costs 100 rupees. ऐसा कुछ नहीं. But make sure that you're attempting questions only on their merit, not because they are a part of a 6 question set. If you are particularly excited about this particular thing, Tony sir, just if you're particularly interested in understanding why a 6 question set is a 6 question set, look at XAT 2011. It's a very nice exercise. It's one of the toughest papers in the history of aptitude tests, I would say. Right? Look at those 1-pointer questions and look at those 5-pointer questions. You will probably understand why a 6 question set is a 6 question set and why a 4 question set is a 4 question set. So please do that.
Yeah, absolutely. As a number, deciding on the 5 question RC just because I'm spending time on reading the RC, I want 5 questions. It just doesn't make
Same for LRDI. They feel that they will solve the whole data. So now instead of getting 4 questions, they'll get 6. But that is completely wrong. Yeah, it could be that a 6 question set was easy, then go ahead with it. But if it was not easy, don't waste your time on it.
There are some nice examples that I can give, but I think in this case, most of the analogies I want to leave aside. So I think Amit sir and Shashank, I'll share them.
That was CAT 2011. Sorry, XAT 2011.
XAT 2011. Yeah. Wonderful test.
Amit sir, there is Simran is asking one question very persistently, so I thought I'll just take it up.
How many minutes in the set should I decide whether to solve it or not?
Yeah, I think this question has been asked by a lot of people. So
okay.
How many minutes should I devote before I give up?
I would say, if I have decided that I wanted to do that set and it depends where I am. If I feel that suppose it was a table where there are 8 or 10 columns and I'm filling in columns, and if I'm getting most of the things, fair enough, I'll continue solving it for another 2-3 minutes after 5 minutes also. But after 5 minutes, if I've not reached anywhere, means I'm still just reading the data, not even decided what kind of representation it's going to be, then very frankly, not worth it. I would leave the set after 5 minutes. 5 to 6 minutes would be my benchmark, but depends on where you are in the set. If you've already narrowed down to a lot of conditions, solved 1 or 2 questions, then it's worth it.
Yeah, one more thing. So basically, again, idle time is what you have to measure your performance in. So we are again doing a research. Tony sir and I were doing some research in terms of how do people attempt SimCats, where do they get stuck, how do the toppers perform, right? We basically see that 50% of your time in your LRDI section is going to be idle, wherein you are not doing anything or you are spending it on questions that you are eventually going to leave or get wrong, right? That is basically the time that you have to reduce. A simple rule of thumb is every 1 minute that you spend not doing anything, not getting any breakthrough in your set, you basically let go of that set and try something else. The logic, the sort of biological explanation for that is in a concept wherein you are discussing the types of thinking. One thinking is essentially focused thinking, the other is diffused thinking. Even when you are not solving a set, your brain will keep on solving it subconsciously. You will not be doing it intentionally, but your brain will keep on doing it. And that is why a lot of you come up with this query saying that I was not able to solve it in a SimCat, but I was able to solve it very quickly after the SimCat. No magic has happened. Your brain has basically done the work for you. It has been working in the background. You are programmed to do it that way. Evolution has made sure that you are doing something at the back of your mind. So that is what helps. So if you get stuck at any point in time, please let go of that question as soon as you can. You will always find time to come back to that question and you will be able to do it well.
Yes, I think we can go to the few ones. Those who have had questions about, say, percentile scores, those who joined a bit late, I think, yeah, take a screenshot of this so that you can always have this handy. I think quant is where, you know, the gap increases quite a bit between the rest of the crowd and the toppers, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think a lot of it is because people enter the quant section after solving VA and LRDI. So they're already rattled. They are again, I think, a lot more scared than they would have attempted than the way in which they would have attempted otherwise. So I have a theory for this. I don't know. Last year, the scores that we see here, people have actually underperformed compared to what I thought people would be performing. So the 80th, 85th, 90th percentile are way less than what people at that level should have scored. Yeah.
Okay, so now 100-day prep plan for quant. So I have a very simple strategy for quant. One is that do everything at least in the basic stuff. So a lot of people keep asking us, you know, should I leave this topic? Should I leave that topic? Very frankly, don't leave anything. At least get the basics of that topic right. Also, it is very obvious that, like how, you know, how in verbal you cannot do well without doing well in RC. Same way in quant, you cannot do well without doing well in arithmetic. Like nearly 50% of the paper, or maybe even more now, is arithmetic. So you have to do well at arithmetic. So whatever, say, if somebody is, say, bad at quant or not doing well in quant, I would advise you can even spend the next 1 month. I'm okay with that, doing only arithmetic, but doing it really well. And doing all topics from there, doing topics like time, speed, distance also in detail. You know, you can't just get up and say, I want to do well at CAT, but I don't want to do time, speed, distance. I don't like that topic. Sorry, means CAT is asking you at least 2 or 3 questions around that. So I would suggest that forget everything, concentrate on arithmetic, but do every topic. So even numbers, even though it is not asked too much in detail now, but go through the basics. Geometry, go through, if geometry is not your favorite area, at least know all your properties and theorems. You can apply them at least directly. And have one more strong area. You can have algebra as a strong area. So with arithmetic, if you have even one more strong area, I think you will do well at that. Yeah, Shashank?
Yeah. One more thing again, people are asking as to how do they revise questions and how do they remember things. So the thing is, you are going to spend a good part of your lives making PPTs and delivering PPTs, right? So I generally suggest that you start as soon as you can. Whenever you come across an interesting question, take a screen grab, put it in the form of a PPT, and keep on expanding this PPT. Keep on adding questions to this PPT. Every alternate day before you go to sleep or as soon as you wake up, just look at that PPT. Look at those questions that you have saved in that PPT. I'm not saying you sit and solve those questions over and over again. Just try to understand why did you put that interesting question in that PPT in the first place, right? That will help you understand the kind of topics that you are covering, the kind of compartmentalization that is required for these kind of topics. And you will have a better recall at the end of the day. So you will have a good, I think, stash of 500 odd questions at the end of this entire activity, which you can refer to and which you can revise maybe a couple of days before the CAT, or even when you are taking SimCats, people ask as to what should we do before the SimCat. So you can't go through the entire material that exists.
Shashank, I'm so sorry. Yeah. There was one question which I want to take right now. No. Will watching the concept videos and application video be enough for preparation for quant? So it is like saying that I watched the whole England Test series on TV and now I can go and play the next match.
Yeah.
In terms of learning concepts, yes.
So they're saying, will that be enough for quant?
Knowing, so syllabus-wise, it's comprehensive, right, sir?
Yes, syllabus-wise, it is comprehensive, but you have to do it on your own. remember, lot of students with this video generation, they think just seeing is remembering. Seeing is better than reading, yes, logically, but still you have to do quant on your own. You can't just see the question ka solution. Means whichever questions you have done, whether they're SimCat questions, whether they're application video questions, anything, I would always advise you stop the video, solve the question first on your own, and then look at the video solution. Never, don't see the solution then try the question. It's a waste of time.
देखने के पैसे नहीं मिलते और मार्क्स भी नहीं मिलते हैं. पैसे नहीं लगते और मार्क्स भी नहीं मिलते हैं देखने के.
So
how many quant questions?
How many quant questions per day? I would rather break it up into topics, So let's take up, say, arithmetic. So arithmetic has 7 or 8 chapters. If I start with 1 chapter or 2 chapters, am I finishing everything in that chapter? Am I finishing my regular module, then the learn module, practice module, and so on? And then once I finish all these chapters, can I go to a section test? That's how I would look at it. Yeah. Shashank, going to add something there?
Yeah, if you are looking at a number, then 2000 is as good as a number as any. 20 questions per day. It's a good number to chase.
Okay. Fair enough. It could be 20. Means, see, quant can also change, if you're solving an A-level question, you can solve 20 or 30 very quickly. But if you're solving a category B question, you might be able to solve 15, 20. So average it out, see what you're solving, and so on. And also, quant is one area. If you go to past papers, you go to IIFT, because unlike LRDI, the level of quant in CAT has not increased drastically. So if you look at any other test, any past test, even the old 90s papers of CAT, the level of quant was very similar. You can keep practicing that also. There is enough practice available in quant. So if you want to practice like a section test, you can pick up an old paper of 95, 98 and solve it like a section test. It will still work even today.
Yeah, I think, but just to my 2 pence on the quant is, if you have a problem with RC, you'll have a problem with arithmetic, because there is a problem with reading in general. So unless your arithmetic is good, I don't think the current pattern of the CAT, there is nothing much else. So I think arithmetic, numbers, maybe modern maths, sir, I think you can leave it for the end if you don't have time, but maybe the first things you should focus on that. Any order, sir, you would like to give, Amit sir?
Arithmetic, Tony, very clear. They have arithmetic and then one area of their choice. It could be algebra or geometry. I would prefer geometry. I would prefer geometry because, I feel that geometry is much easier to crack on the day of the CAT. If they practice well now, geometry is much easier than to crack any other section, I would say.
Yeah.
Because the questions are they ask very standard questions in geometry. If you look at the last 5 years, none of the questions in geometry are really challenging. So I feel that geometry can be easily handled well. Now you have so many concept videos, each and every concept covered in the video. You go through all the concept videos and start solving geometry. I think somebody was asking me how to remember the theorems. Means you can just see the videos like a playlist, After every 10-15 days, you can just see it once more. If you see it 3 or 4 times also before CAT, you'll remember it easily.
And those who ask about revision, because you either know arithmetic or you don't know arithmetic. You can't keep revising arithmetic constantly. Ki acha speed ka formula kya hai, upstream, bootstream, downstream kya hai. Yeah, there can be a few things that you've not done in a long time. Say logarithm formulas that maybe you need to revise. Or those who are from a non-math background and geometry pehli baar kar rahe ho, you need to revise. But at least, you shouldn't need any revision in arithmetic.
Arithmetic is all about practice, Tony. Means if they can just start practicing more and more questions, and as Shashank said earlier, he said it in DILR, but it works a lot in quant also, are you looking at those alternative approaches in quant? So you solved a question by one method, most of you are happy. I'm sure half of you don't even see the video in the solution if you've got a question right. If you've got a question right, most of you will not see the video also, which is bad, because you don't know what, say, Param sir, me or Shashank sir has done in that video, and we might have an excellent method there to show you.
Those who are maybe doing well on the quant, but maybe not exceptionally, you're clearing the cutoff, but you're not doing exceptionally well, you will see that maybe if you start watching the video solutions, you'll see much better ways of solving. Yeah, that is something that you should definitely look at.
Yeah.
So
Hemant, can we move ahead?
And can I afford to leave any topic? What should the topic that I can't afford to miss? I think you just cannot afford to miss anything in arithmetic.
Arithmetic. So if you had to put a knife on my neck and ask me, sir, what topic would you suggest me to leave? I could take a risk with PNC.
Yeah. Permutation.
Today. Yeah, because in the last couple of years, CAT has not asked too much in PNC. But remember that they asked one or two sets in DI sometimes in PNC. So, but if you really had to tell me, can I, sir, give me one topic which I have to leave, then it would have been PNC for me.
Yeah, even if you're not a master in that, it's fine. I don't think it'll hurt your chances too much.
Yeah. Again, a lot of people PNC probability. A lot of people get into those complicated division-based questions, Euler, Fermat, Chinese remainder theorem, all kinds of stuff. It's okay to leave those kind of things. Focus on 3 topics: percentages, ratios, averages. Your arithmetic should be done. And another thing is try to understand why a theorem exists or why a corollary exists. If you are able to understand that, you will feel no need to memorize it. The more you try to memorize quant, the worse off you will be. So always try to understand why a particular thing is the way it is, and it should be embedded in your mind.
Yeah, somebody asked trigonometry. Yes, you can leave trigonometry. No, don't worry so much if you are not getting trigonometry.
Yeah.
So with maxima minima, even if you want to leave it, we have this very simple logic. Right? Shashank is already smiling. Take up a question, and most of the time, maxima minima works with the equal value. At least utna to karke aa jao.
Yeah.
Means half the questions in maxima minima get solved at equal values, right? That way.
Of the two variables.
Yeah, so if A plus B is 20 or whatever, something like that, then just take 10 and 10 and at least try it off.
Yeah.
Sequence and series cannot be left.
No, sequence and series last couple of years have always asked.
है मतलब उसमें अभी उसको sequence and series भी बोलना थोड़ा ये है.
No, arithmetic, geometric progression, both the topics they've been asking in the last couple of years. At least one question in both they've been asking.
I think we should consider as part of arithmetic only. What do you say? Because उसको math दिमाग में भी I don't think of it as modern math में. There is nothing modern about it. You know? Equal interval में डाल दो बोल के क्या?
Yeah,
coordinate geometry.
3D geometry is definitely important. I think you know you need to know your cones and everything well. Cone, cylinder.
Ideally, you have 5 formulas in mensuration, right? Cone है, cylinder है, sphere है. ठीक है. उतना ही.
Tony, that also if you see the videos, the formulas have been derived so well and shown to them that they don't need to by heart them also.
Yeah, but so 3 formulas. All you have are 3, no cone, sphere, or cylinder. और क्या बचा है? मतलब that's about it.
Yeah,
you know.
Someone asking coordinate geometry. Coordinate geometry again is coordinate geometry is important. It's not unimportant, but it depends on how deep are you going in. So distance formula, yes, you have to know. Section formula, yes, you have to know. Basic plotting and understanding the area questions, those are the ones that generally appear at the CAT a lot. But if you get into the depth of it and try to find area of a triangle, if you get into the circle ke area wale questions and all those things, you can leave. 2 formulas that I would want all of you to memorize. Whatever happens, please do that. One is the distance between 2 parallel lines, and the second thing is distance between a point and a line. Very, very important, especially when it comes to the IFT, especially when it comes to some obscure test like the MyCAT. So MyCAT is notorious to throw one difficult question every now and then. So please be prepared for these concepts as well. They are very important. They will give you those 2-3 extra marks. Yeah, how to increase attempts.
Algebra, geometry. Somebody was asking algebra. So if you always ask me the second most important area, it will be geometry. Yeah. How to increase attempts? I think, you know, the ABC analysis, even though we can apply it to DILR and verbal, but I think actually the ABC analysis has been made for quant.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually tailor-made for quant. So if you see any of our ABC analysis videos and everything where we are talking about question selections, I think selecting questions in quant is the most important. Going about the way, you know, if you have, say, 26 questions, how many questions will you go through in the first round? And then when you start solving, so by the time you come to the end of 26 questions, how many would you have finished solving? Obviously, it will depend on the day and what test you're doing. But selection of questions in quant is very, very important. Yeah, Shashank, you were talking about some process today afternoon, the 3-question process. So if you can tell them that.
Yeah. So again, just to give some context, in verbal you have to make what 12 decisions, 8 VA and 4 RCSP selection. What do you need to do? In DI you have to make 5 decisions. In quant you have to make 26 decisions. That is the enormity, and that is why every decision becomes crucial. Now there is one small thing that I generally advise people who are not able to reach the last question, and that is look at 3 questions at once. So look at question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. You have to understand which one out of these 3 is the easiest. Something that you have done earlier, something that you are extremely familiar with, something that comes from an area of strength. Attempt that question, solve that question nicely, then go to question number 4, 5, 6. The next set will be 4, 5, 6. That's what has to happen, right? You have to be extremely disciplined. Even if you see 3 easy questions, you have to have the discipline to go to question 4, 5, 6 once you have solved one out of these 3. That way, once you are done with 9 such sets, you would have solved 9 questions on an average, 7 to 9 questions on an average, and you would have another 20 minutes left, another 20, 22, 24 minutes left to solve the other questions that you have already gone through. So it is similar to an ABC approach, but at a much granular level. So if you are not able to make that decision one-on-one, try to compare 3 questions. And once you're done with that comparison, do one, move ahead, do one, move ahead, keep on doing that. That is your first round.
I'm just maybe my 2 pence on increasing attempts. So I remember I had a student who had come down, was working with a very good consulting firm. He'd attempted CAT and he wanted, didn't get the desired college. Next attempt, he said, "Sir, I'm good at quant. I'm working with a top-notch consulting firm, but I'm not able to attempt more than 22 questions." This was around, and the number of sections was 36. Whenever I see when people say that I'm good at quant, all you need to do is throw them a quant problem and see how they solve, right? And I saw that very, very well. He listed down all the steps from top to bottom on the page. So it is obvious that he can score only 22, he can solve only 22 correct, right? And it's because you're writing every single thing down. I'm not saying do stuff mentally, but at least say some amount of the calculation. If you have to calculate the average of 5 numbers, don't write down the 5 numbers with a plus sign in between all of them, then draw a line under them, then write divided by 5. If you're doing that, then I'm sorry that we are not teaching for the same test that you are taking. So average of 5 numbers dimag mein add kar lo or divide kar lo. At least wo plus sign to mat likho, bas numbers likh lo, right? So, and even if there is an equation that you've written, don't now spend single time that taking this x to this side, that to that side. Do at least, you can easily crash your solving time by a third if you just look at your rough sheet and at least do a few of those things mentally, right? I think there is a huge to be gained even for the very, very good students. I think there is at least, say, you can crash what you write by half.
Yeah. So when it comes to the ABC approach, again, the same answer. There is already a very nice strategy video on applying the ABC approach. You have a lot of parameters. There are 5 parameters when it comes to the quant section, right? And Amit sir would have discussed them very well in the analysis video for, I believe, SimCat 4, if I'm not wrong. And there is 1 and 4, right? Yeah. 1 and 4, we have discussed this at length. So again, the broader thing is familiarity with the concept, the number of concepts that are tested, the kind of numbers that are present in the question, the kind of numbers that are there in the options. These are basically the things that we look at. After a point in time, everything should happen subconsciously. You should build it into your muscle memory. The more you are able to do it without saying the name of the particular parameter, the better off you will be, the quicker you are going to.
And I think if you can just be absolutely ruthless, that first round will only be 6s and 4s. You're not going to play for a single or a 2. It's not just worth it. What happens, especially those who are good at math, if you're saying, I think the big danger is if you think, I feel I can do every problem. So when you say, I feel I can do every problem, and you feel that means that, basically there is no test taking strategy involved. So what
so in fact, Tony, exactly, I was saying this in the DIL SIP class. People are, a very easy set, they give say 9 points. And a pretty difficult set, they give 7 points. I said, then what is the difference? You are trying to say that you like everything. So that is where I'm saying that, decide that there are some questions you don't want to do. Remember that even in quant, you need only 14, 15 correct questions to get 99 percentile.
Yeah.
You don't need to solve 26.
Yeah.
Right? So don't aim for 26 questions. If you start aiming for 26 questions, you're going to have a problem.
So
But if you want to
going
get
to solve 2 out of 3 questions only, right?
yeah, 2 out of 3 is more than enough.
Is more than enough. Yeah. So, and if those 2 out of 3 is more than enough, you know that among the 2 that you solve, only half you'll solve in the first round, and the rest of the half maybe in the second round.
True.
Right. So, and that first round will be for you to comfortably clear the cutoff, and second round will be to whatever, maximize and do that. So yeah, being absolutely ruthless, thinking that first round is only 4s and 6s, I'm not going to play a shot for a single or a 2. That's maybe the best, mindset that we can think of.
And one more thing, again, as in try to tell yourself what exactly are you doing, right? So there is again habit forming techniques. If you look at those, for those of you who tend to eat maybe at unnatural hours and jo bhi, matlab, you are putting on weight or whatever, you might want to tell yourself explicitly that you are doing something that is going to harm you. So you basically take a cookie, let's say for example, you tell yourself, I am going to eat this cookie that is going to interfere or that is going to delay my sort of goal of losing weight. Same thing you tell yourself when you are solving a quant question. I'm going to solve this question, which is going to come in the way of scoring an optimum score or a percentile, right? And remember that bit, 40 minutes is what you have to solve the test. You have the rest of your life, 60, 65 years for most of you, in which you will be able to solve the questions. So the aim is not to solve the questions, the aim is to crack the test. So be very clear on the objective.
So there's a question over here. I'm a math background person, but I struggle to solve each and every question. You're not supposed to solve each and every question. That's the best part. Whether you're from a math background. So I'm telling you, most of us have scored 100 percentile in CAT earlier in quant, say. Me, Shashank, Param scores it regularly. But still, doesn't mean that for every SimCAT, we know each and every question every time. You're not supposed to do that. You are supposed to solve that. You're supposed to get a score of 45, 40 if you are aiming at 95, or a 35 if you're aiming at 85. So aim for a score which you want. Why do you want to score 78 and 78? Then it's just you better be working only on maths. But that's not what you want to do, right?
Do I need to work on calculation speed, Aman sir?
See, it's a catch, if you're looking only at CAT, you have the calculator. But as soon as you come to any other exam, there is no calculator. And then you'll be stuck. So you should work. And I believe that for a lot of things, if you keep going back to the calculator, you'll waste a lot of time. So I think you should work a little bit on calculation speed. Yeah, it doesn't have to be your major focus, but still you have to work on some amount of it. So I have a simple logic that whenever you're practicing, don't use your calculator as far as possible.
Yeah.
Practice may don't use calculator, because what happens now, in practice, we tend to use a calculator on the phone. And we have a misconception that using the calculator is very easy. On the day of the CAT, you'll have to use it on the screen, and that's terrible.
And calculator is actually fairly slow. Your brain is faster, in case you didn't know that, because than your hand. By the time you take that mouse, you click each number. I think it's the most painful exercise that you can do during that exam, where your whole brain is going at one pace, and then you have to reach out with your hand. So I would just say that you should just make it a habit to not use it. You'll be much better off.
And people are habituated to using the calculator will always tend to recheck their answers by using the calculator on the day of the test, because the stakes are going to be extremely high. So please not get into the habit of using the calculator. Use it maybe once or twice during the entire test, and I think that should be good enough. That's how much I generally use it, once in every CAT on an average.
Shashank, I think maybe we can safely say that OGs don't use calculators. Because our CAT is from the days when there was no calculator, so we never thought that calculator was even an option.
True.
Yeah, how to maintain focus and concentration. One thing is, during preparation, you have to understand the end goal. You are planning to take this test once in your life. If you don't maintain your focus and concentration, you will end up taking this test multiple times in your life, which is not the goal. So tell that to yourself whenever you are losing focus. See, there are a lot of techniques that work in maintaining focus and concentration. Some people feel that doing or meditating will help them build focus, concentration. They will at least be stable in terms of their thought process. It helps a lot of people. So you might want to try that. Some people, once they get bored while doing something, they just get up and start walking. Physical exercise or physical movement always helps your brain build focus and concentration. You might not be able to do that during the test. That generally helps. One thing that helps focus and concentration is having an area wherein you are just preparing for the test. So you have to identify a place where you will just sit and prepare. If you have a place wherein you sit and prepare, you also eat your food there, you also sleep there, your brain does not get that clue that this is a place where I'm supposed to do something. So there are some techniques that you can maybe use to develop your focus and concentration. And during the test, if you are looking at focus and concentration, the best thing that can happen is you have to practice a lot. As in, CAT is not going to be a 2-hour test. Remember that. CAT is going to be a good 2-hour, 45 minutes test. Because you have to reach the center at least an hour and a half before the scheduled time. You will be ushered into the computer lab maybe 40-45 minutes before your test starts. You will spend 45 minutes doing nothing but thinking about what all things have you done well or not well over the last few days, few months or so, right? So it's going to require a much higher level of concentration. So make sure that you are putting yourself in that situation, taking your SimCats the way they are meant to be, and that is generally going to help you focus well during the test.
Yep, I think the only time, Amit, I think we can ensure that my take is slightly not different in the sense that maintain focus and concentration. If it's a life and death situation, you know you're going to miss this train, you're about to die, something will happen. So do you think your whole body will say that, no, I'm bored right now? No, you'll be shocked into doing that. So either you really enjoy something or it's a life and death situation. Nobody needs to tell you to focus and concentrate. So either you don't enjoy it or it's not a life and death situation. Hence you look for 10 different methods to, focus and concentrate. So, we can wait till it becomes a life and death situation.
There are a couple of students who asked this question, how to, balance this with work. So I have a very simple logic. So sometimes, okay, I agree that if you don't have time, you can't solve 4 LR sets together. You don't have a 1 hour gap. But if you plan your day out, you will realize you have so many 15 minutes gaps. So many places you have those 15 minutes gap. Can you get up 15 minutes earlier? Can you sleep 15 minutes later? Then whatever. You might say that, sir, I'm already sleeping only for 6 hours. It's okay. Sleep for 5 hours, 45 minutes. Start 15 minutes extra. Every time you have that 15 minutes extra, wherever you want to do that, you will realize. So I remember from a very old student of mine, he went to IIM Ahmedabad. This was, I think, CAT 2012 or something. And he told us, a story where he said how important his parents made life for him. So how they would keep everything ready for him so that every 15-20 minutes, which he had extra, he could solve 1 RC extra maybe, or 1 LRDI set extra. So I think those 15, 20 minutes which we have can really change your life, even if you don't get, say, 4-5 hours together.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
And one more thing Amit sir had said, I remember vividly, if you feel that you're not getting time, start at 7 a.m., write down what you do every hour of the day. 7 to 8, what did you do? 8 to 9, what did you do? Keep on doing that. You will get your answer after 3 or 4 days. Am I right?
Yes, definitely. In fact, that's a mirror. It shows you the mirror what you're doing. How much time are you wasting in a day?
So yeah, how many hours to prepare every day?
As
many as you can.
As you can.
More the merrier.
If you're either studying or you're working, whatever amount of time you have, free after that, I think there should only be CAT prep and nothing else. I don't think there is. You have time for more, even if it's college in this one. If you have a whole day to yourself and only CAT prep, those of you are taking a break or something, I don't know, maybe
So I think, at this moment, this goes back, Hemang would remember, long back we had done this with a lot of students. In today's world, I think you can do one simple thing. I know because in those days we used to tell students to give up their phones. Today it's literally impossible. But today what you can do is, at least bare minimum what you can do is get rid of all the OTT subscriptions you have for the next 3 months. Every single thing.
All the apps also. Get rid
The
of
apps also.
all the
So-
useless apps on your phone.
So Netflix, Amazon Prime, whatever you have on your phone, maybe even YouTube, unless you want to just see a lot of cat videos, that's a different thing. But just get rid of everything. Yes, Instagram or whatever that is.
We are weaker than them. Don't
Yeah.
don't think you're stronger than them, that you can have it on their phone and you can resist it. You're weaker than them. And I think off late also, I think the last couple of years, whenever you read something, an interview about a UPSC topper or somebody, the first thing they say is that I've been off social media for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So if you think that, I don't think it's even possible to fight it if you have it on your phone.
Yeah.
I've lost the
Literally
battle, so I've lost the app, got rid of the app.
So Tony, many years back, we used to tell students to give us their phones,
Yeah.
But today, with so much available on the phone, also it's going to be difficult. But otherwise, definitely one thing is there, that they should give up every OTT platform ka subscription.
Because a lot of this is also about how fresh your brain is, because just like your phone battery also keeps getting discharged even if the apps are running in the background, you might be just watching some YouTube videos and you think you're not spending too much energy, but finally all of that adds up, and when you later sit for the test, are you really fresh? No. So I think conserving your mental energy for the next 2-3 this thing, you have to go on a major diet, so that is what you call the tech-free diet, and then maybe something is possible. Especially for concentration, I think it's spoiled all of our concentration that way. When you're working and suddenly you get a WhatsApp message or that tendency, and even to do good work, you want uninterrupted time, right? So you're not able to ever go deeply into any damn thing. You're always on the surface, because half the time you're distracted or doing, not you, I think all of us. So I'm not just mentioning you. So yeah, you have a chance to shut everything off for a while for an excuse. So you should do that.
So there's this technique called
if I had to put a number to this, it would be 3 to 4 hours plus any test. 3 to 4 hours of practice, plus if you're going to take a test on that day, that has to be separate. If you have to put a number. I don't know, means.
And going back to the activities that were there, there is generally this concept called a 10-10-10 thing. So whatever activity you are doing, try to think about what value is going to be added to you because you are doing that activity 10 hours from now, maybe 10 months from now, and 10 years from now. That should help you understand whether it's a useful activity or a useless activity. So always think about that 10-10-10 principle maybe.
Just think about it. We can wait till the shit will hit the ceiling and you have no other option, right? In life, most things in life we do like that only. When there is no other option, we'll wait till then, till we are completely screwed before we make a change. So you can wait till that time, or you can do it straight away. I would just say it's as simple as that. So I'm sure in the last 1 week of CAT, everybody will take off the apps of their phone. But maybe those who take off the apps right now, they're the ones who end up doing much better. Right?
Yeah. So what all resources from IMS should we refer to?
I think Hemang should take. Hemang can take up the question best. I think this question. Hemang, you're on mute. I think so.
Sure. Yeah. So there are a lot of resources. I've answered a few questions on chat also.
Yeah.
So I would say pick what suits you the best. So I'll just go through the list. It will help all of us. So the concept videos that is under the Learn tab on IMS is useful if you are going through the concepts or for revision. Correct. For practice questions, you can look either at your courseware, the hard copy notes that you have, or the practice module. Maybe the learn questions are a little simpler and may not serve the purpose as of now, okay, unless you're doing it for the first time. So concept videos, learn module. To solve actual questions, you can look at either the modules or you can look at the practice module on IMS. Correct. After that, you have masterclass and eMaximizer. Masterclass, I would suggest you look at it as a one round of quick revision after you have done a module. So if you have done, let's say, geometry, watch Amit sir do 4 hours of his
sorry, Hemang, one point, a lot of people make a mistake in the masterclass. When you come for or when you attend any masterclass, please practice that area and go. Don't assume it's a revision for that area.
Correct.
So if it's a
So,
geometry thing,
so one round of quick revision and then that masterclass will help you.
Yeah.
Correct. Then we have eMaximizer workshops, typically designed once you have done the entire modules at least once. They are designed to take you from the 85 percentile to the 99 percentile mark. So that would be the sequence that masterclass and eMaximizer can either be parallel or do masterclass and then do your eMaximizer. The last part is your SimCats. So we have take-home SimCats and the proctored SimCats. Take-home SimCats are equally good. We have just given you more tests for you to practice whenever you want to take them. Correct. So have a schedule for your SimCats. That's the best thing to do. A lot of people asking questions on scheduling. My simple one-line advice: follow the SimCat schedule, and you do just fine. You take enough number of mocks till the day the cat arrives. So that's a quick run-up of all the resources. Anytime you miss a master class, you always have the recordings available. Any session we do live, a recording is always available for you to catch it up later.
And I think just to a few things, most important things would be the SimCats. I would say the best resources would be every year the videos that we shoot as the solutions. So if you know to solve all the problems, quant problems, and you've seen the way Amit sir and Shashank sir solve those problems, right? The video solutions or the quant, those 16 SimCats itself with those 4 questions that close to all the questions, that itself is a huge thing.
Only this batch though has nearly all, even the take homes, they have videos now.
In the take home also has videos. Same thing for the DILR set. So you should be taking tests. So if you're a first time aspirant and it's the first time you're preparing for the CAT, you should take at least 25 to 30 tests in the season. So everything that you're talking about, that you hear Shashank saying or me saying or Hemang, all of us, because we've taken so many mocks. It's not because his expertise is coming just like that. So most valuable resources, I think I would say, are the SimCats. You should look at 25 to 30 mocks in the season. More importantly, look at the video solutions. Don't go hunting around saying, "Acha, must DILR set kahan milenge?" Tough set. The ones that you did not do in the exam, in SimCat, those only are the tough tests. 16 into whatever number, those sets in the mocks only, you won't find better tests. Our take-home test easy? Our take-home test easy? Take-home tests are not easy. They're previous year's SimCats. Just because the name is not proctored, name is take home, automatically everything becomes easy. On these same tests only, people have asked us in the past, these are so tough, what about the take home tests? So all take home tests are made using that only. So you just have to take as many tests, go through the solutions. You can, and if you know to solve all the questions, but solve not as a mugging up thing, but you know to how to answer all the questions on a SimCat season, I think your job is done. Right, sir? I think.
Yeah. I think if you look at, say, even 30 SimCats and to 26 questions also per SimCat in quant, it's around 800 questions, which is a lot of questions if you actually look at it.
So yeah, so I think at a very bare minimum level, that itself you have 100 days, and you easily can do a test. If you've not taken any test, also you can do a test every 3 days. If some of you have taken a few, yeah. So that. Anything else, Hemang? Yeah, how many SimCats to take? I think I've just covered that. So, all the 16, anything less than all the 16 proctored mocks, you're not serious about the exam. As simple as that. The rest is your choice. You can take as many as you want. But anything less than the 16 proctored mocks, I don't think.
But I have a simple logic. If you're taking a SimCat and not analyzing it, it's not worth taking it.
Yeah.
You can actually just, if it's just a number for you, increase. So I know so many students who take 40 SimCats and they don't do well. Why? Because they're not analyzing tests. And there are others who would do 25 and do well because they have analyzed each and every test. Again, Hemang will remember one of our ex-students, again in Ahmedabad Convert, would always tell us that if he writes a test for 3 hours, he takes 4 hours analyzing it.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think back in the day when I used to go also morning, take a mock, come home, have lunch, afternoon, sit with that mock. I myself should know before watching the video solutions how to, or before reading the solutions, how to solve all the questions myself. Yeah. If I'm not able to do that, then I read the solutions. So first half test, second half analysis, evening I go meet my friends. So that was my initiative. So that was a very, very clear this thing. And it's not like I will wait for the analysis for the next day or whatever. Actually, I don't think I could rest until I saw did the analysis, because all the problems that you didn't get, you're very, very eager to give it another shot and figure out what happened. So
And it should not become a chore as in at the end of it. As in, you should not be like, Acha, I have 5 parameters, I'll just sit and analyze and then I will not do anything about it. So every mock should have some actionable insight that you are going to carry forward. Before taking a mock, your objective should not be to score X marks or Y percentile, right? Your objective should be clearer than that. You should know what exactly are the mistakes that you made in the previous mock. Maybe you got stuck in a question and you wasted 5 minutes, which you should not have. That is an insight. Maybe you got rattled by the level of difficulty of LRDI section and not do well at the quant section. That is an insight. So all these things you have to consider. In terms of SIMCAT analysis, I believe Prasad sir has been regularly doing sessions and he will keep on doing those sessions. So those are some really nice sessions wherein we will, wherein you will understand as to how to analyze a SIMCAT in depth, how to make use of all the analytics that we have. So we have some wonderful numbers that we have on your MyIMS portal. You have to look at all those numbers, try to make sense of those quantitative insights. And there will always be a qualitative side to it as well. Tomorrow, let's say you get into a sales role, let's say, for example, right? And one fine day, your boss asks you as to why is not a particular thing selling in your region. Now, you can't say that I have looked at all the numbers, I have visited the entire market, but I'm still not able to figure out as to why this thing is not selling in the first place, right? You have to get some qualitative insights into the picture as well. So again, it could be as simple as being rattled just before you took the SIMCAT, right? It could be an insight as simple as that. It could be an insight as simple as not having the best pen that you have when you are solving that SIMCAT. It could be anything, but you have to have good insights. You have to have good ways of telling us or telling yourself as to why you did not do as well as you would have liked. Apur, that was the answer to your question, basically. SIMCAT 7 was tough. Wait till you see the subsequent SIMCATs. But jokes apart, obviously it has to be a mix of everything. You can't be surprised. So it's very easy to solve a difficult SIMCAT now and appear for an easier CAT compared to solving easier SIMCATs now and appearing for a difficult test later. So that's why we design it in that manner.
Yes, we also do understand that, you guys want to be management graduates. So management is all about optimization, right? Optimization at every level. So you are the raw material, right? So you are the raw material, you have the time. So if you are not able to, because at some level, you have to show that skill with respect to yourself, optimizing your day, optimizing your strengths and weaknesses. So I think, if everything, the four of us have to, I'm being very honest, finally it's that, right? Because we cannot sit with each and every student and see, acha, now solve this section and tell us what's happening, because you have to show that skill right now in terms of planning your day, planning, developing a prep plan that is ideal for yourself, as well as, what you call, figuring out, how to go about, the next this thing. So so we can only give you guidelines. The rest you'd have to decide that, you're no longer students, but you're prospective MBAs. So bring some of the management game here itself, so that is very important. Any other? Anything else? I think.
Harmonic progression does not get asked at the CAT, so don't worry about it. Not directly, indirectly you might be able to apply it, but directly, so you need not worry.
Yeah, and so another question that should we split time between round 1 and round 2? So it's not like a fixed time. So for example, there are a certain number of say 9 questions you can leave. The remaining questions that you have depends upon how many 6s and 4s are there in that. So it's not as of round 1. It's not based on time. It can be that it's a slightly tough paper. And all questions, there are no sitters, there are only 2s and 3s and 2s and 3s. So it depends upon that. So I don't think we can, so don't go by a fixed time. So if there are 3 sitters, knock off the 3 sitters at the beginning and then do all the rest.
See, a lot of people have been asking questions that have a definite answer. For example, a specific number rather. So right now, Raghav is constantly asking, how many questions to attempt in QA? Raghav, please remember, there is no one magic number. That number changes every time.
I think,
like, for example, I just tell you, okay, the magic number is 22, correct? And on your CAT day, you finish 22 questions in 30 minutes. Are you going to sit idle for the next 10 minutes? Obviously, no, right? So the logic is as many as possible for you. Correct. So if the test gets difficult, maybe you can attempt only 16. If the test is easy, maybe you can attempt all 26, right? So please do not chase a specific definite number. The question, that number will change as per the situation, right? So last year, VRC was a little challenging. Maybe for the first time in my 12 years of CAT taking, I could not attempt all the 26 questions. But that was because the paper was challenging. In 40 minutes, it was very difficult to attempt all the 26 questions, right? So don't chase a number, chase the principle, which is as many as possible and with as high as accuracy as possible. Again, if you ask for accuracy numbers, if I say 85%, 80% accuracy, will you not try for 90% accuracy? Obviously, you will try, right? So please have some basic guiding principles and not a definite number. I think that should help your preparation there.
See, this chart, this table should tell you what is par at various. It's like saying, okay, on this pitch, usually 85 percentile means so many runs are scored, right? Now, this 19 marks of quant, you can get by solving 7 questions right, just attempting 7 questions and get that right. So this is like saying, yeah, what happened on this pitch in the past, but you're not going to ask your coach tomorrow कि कल जाके मैं कितने रन बनाऊं. मतलब जितना बना सकते हो बनाओ ना. You're not going to say कि how many runs today should I make tomorrow, sir? What will make you happy? Score as many as you can, So, but this is the template, so you convert this into number of questions based on your accuracy. This thing. So, and each one needs to know that if you're at 90, don't aim for 99 straight away. From 90, try 95. From 95, then so take small steps. That's the only thing I can say. Yeah, instead of taking, say, very, very big steps.
Someone asked why there is a difference between the 99th percentile and the 100th percentile. You might want to read this book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. So maybe you might want to do that.
Between 99 and 100, yeah, because 100 guys do that many, a few more questions. So, that as in, why is that huge difference? Yeah, because there is a huge, difference effectively.
If you are not sure of a question, you should not attempt that. You can guess it after the test and maybe give yourself some brownie points that you guessed it right. But I think you should not guess anything during the test because you might not want to lose your stash of luck before the main exam. So please don't do that.
Yep, I think we'll be also doing other sessions. So it's not like, this is the only session. We will be doing enough and more sessions after this also. I think we have a few masterclass. We'll have one more round, right, Hemant? So
yes, we'll have one more round of masterclass.
We have one more round of masterclass.
One more round.
We'll have last mile to CAT sessions coming up. We'll have special sessions coming up. This is just the start of a busy season with all of us. So
this is like, I think there's a bit of anxiety. So just for that, so we will be covering in-depth test taking strategy for each section once more in last mile to CAT. Everything around your, say, not being able to handle pressure, this, that. So we have enough and more sessions lined up. So, and as I said, so SimCats and masterclasses, focus on that and you should be good. And recordings will be available. Everything will be done one more time as well.
Yeah. I believe we have answered almost all the questions. For the other exams, we will have similar sessions. So we'll have sessions on NMAT, XAT, IFT, all the exams that appear. So don't worry, each of your query strat prep question will be answered by us, correct? I hope all of you liked the session and your questions were answered. For us, it was a exciting time. I didn't realize that it's
already more than 45 now. Yes, recording for this session will be available. I think we mentioned it many times.
Yeah, I think we're good to go. I think you'll see all of us, at least one or more of us once a week from now on. That is guaranteed. One or more of us once a week, you will see. So that's enough and more, and recording of all of those will be available.
So Tony, my thought is if they're seeing me once a week, they're not studying enough.
Yeah, if they see you once a week,
yeah.
Right, you they should be seeing you much more than that.
So, good evening, all of you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you everyone for turning up and all the best with the preparation.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Best of luck, everybody. Yeah.